Um, so welcome to another episode here on Sandy Bay Media. We cover local football and football all across Australia. So if you're a club and you want to come and share your story, or if you're an athlete that wants to get involved, please come contact us. Today we're joined by Michael Edwards, who's a technical director at Football Tasmania and is an Arsenal supporter, as you can clearly tell. So I apologise for that. But we're going to get to know a little bit about football in Tasmania and how it's run and some of the work that they're doing. Over to you, Michael.
Morning, Ro, and I know you're a Chelsea supporter, buddy, so hence the background, here's the shirt. It's actually 14 on the back of the shirt, so the man that scored the 2 goals last night that sunk the Chelsea boys. So I'm happy. I'm up and about this morning. It's great. You're not so. You're looking tired. You're looking frail. You're worried about Champions League for next week. And yeah, it's going to be a problem with a few injuries that the Chelsea team picked up. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate the invitation. Chance to chat about what's happening, south of the little island up top of us. We're the main people, so it's all about us at the moment.
It is. It's all I.
It is. So, football here and myself. I'm a Tasmanian. I was born in Hobart, raised here, grew up here. Big family, so I've got 4 brothers and a sister who all play. So we had great times kicking footballs, playing cricket.
Yep.
Arguing, which always happens in families. And generally had a great upbringing. Thanks, your mum and dad and the environment that they created. And I think that's a crucial point. Is environments are really important in development of young players and players as they grow up and move into senior levels. Those environments are important too.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think football needs to really think about creating for players and club environments, making sure that they're strong and supportive and, enjoyable for people. I'm married, have 2 daughters. Both are living in Victoria at the moment, so they're in lockdown across there with you. But they enjoy playing the game as well.
Yep.
Both Arsenal supporters too. I had nothing to do with that, by the way. I grew up loving sport, as I said, and ended up going to college to do a degree in physical education. So professionally, that's what I was doing prior to a full-time role in football. I was a phys ed teacher in the Tasmanian school system.
Mm-hmm.
Did that private, public, grades, prep, kinder, right through to grade 12.
Yeah.
So I have a good understanding, in my view, of growth and development and sport and the needs of players. But my main coaching and interest in football was piqued towards the end of my playing career by a guy called Les B, who a lot of people would know through Football Victoria and Football Federation Australia.
Yep.
Who was TD down here at the time and invited me to come in and start working and coaching in their programs.
Yes.
And from there, I really took an interest in the coaching of the game and learning about it. And then had an opportunity through a local coach who took an overseas job in Da Nang city in Vietnam to go and work there for a couple of years and to learn about the game at the professional level. It was a professional male team in their national league. So traveling around Vietnam and seeing that country and the culture and how football operates internationally was an eye-opener.
Oh, yes.
And that sparked that interest. So when we had to leave, or when we left and headed home, we came back through Singapore. And at the time, a guy called Steve Darby, who'd also been a technical director in Tasmania, was working there.
Yes.
And I sat down and had a coffee with Steve and spoke about, next steps and what to do. And he said, well, look, you need to go back and start doing your badges. And we worked my way through, came back, spent a number of weekends travelling Hobart to Sydney to do courses at Football New South Wales, because they were really the only ones at that time that were doing the higher level courses.
Yep.
So invested in that, and then by stepping up, ended up heading off to do an A license in 2007, 2008, I think it was. And we had some great coaches on that course. Mehmet Jurakovic, who now works in Asia, current Victorian TD, Boris,
Oh, yeah.
on that course with us. There were some great people on that course, great coach educators, and got inspired by the coach educators on that course. Kelly Cross to get into that side of the game as well. I think as a teacher that always piques a bit of interest.
Yes.
So yeah, headed back, came back, took it over a men's team, coaching the state league here, and then moved from there into a club academy, the different club. That led to some opportunities with the Institute of Sport as an assistant coach. And then eventually, ended up as the head coach of an Institute of Sport women's program, which then became the NTC when the program shifted from the government back to the sport, to the federation. And I've worked full-time in the game now for nearly 11 years. So it's good. And this role has been, I think, coming into my 4th year now. So it's a really interesting role, and you see lots of sides of the game. As being away, I think I said, you see the game at an international level, but you also see the passion that the fans in Asia have for the game, and that must extend worldwide.
Yes.
And with that, you do come into touch with the corruption and the bad side of the game as well. And we certainly saw and experienced some of the bad things that happen in football, but that's been cleaned up, and people are addressing that. That's something that we're aware of. But we come back here and trying then to get people to see that you've got to think globally. You can act locally, but think globally, because the game itself has so many possibilities, so many options.
Exactly.
So that's one of the things that we're looking at here. Football here is in a pretty good state. So, in terms of numbers, our playing population, obviously this year is probably down a little bit. We're actually back playing, which is really good. Not that I'm trying to rub it into anyone else, but there's been some great work done, I think, at all levels of government and through the federation and through our clubs to make the environment safe and ready to play in. Our numbers, we're primarily a junior association, so I think 10,000 of our numbers might be below the age of 12.
Yep.
And then above that, this is winter season. Above that, 3,000 to 4,000 are adults.
Yep.
But then if you add in our futsal competitions and summer programs and some of the related walking football we've got going, we're starting a program soon. We're working with the Migrant Resource Centre, so to involve the cultural and linguistically diverse groups, the called groups. Certainly looking to it at Mums in Football, which I know is a very popular program interstate. So our Women's Development Officer is working hard on that as well. Football has probably a community that's approaching 20,000 of those that are regularly involved across the year. And try to keep in touch and keep them up to date and keep the coaches up to date, and run courses for them, and then also operate courses. And I've been fortunate that that FFA have asked me to be in Victoria and in New South Wales and also in the Northern Territory to help run courses. So you get across the country, you see where football is, you meet some great people, and it's fantastic. Specifically, I guess, we could talk about women's football here and how that's structured. If you'd like to start,
let's start off with that. So having a look at the structure, sort of the impact it has in the community. And, in our first take, you were telling me about how it was run and how it's slightly different to how other states are doing it in terms. So I want to really have a look at that.
Our female football population is quite strong. We have around 26 to 27% of our participants are female, which I think is slightly above the national average. There are a couple of pockets where it's even higher than that. So one association in Hobart has around about a 31, 32% female participation, which is fantastic. The challenge obviously is, as it always is, to not only continue to bring players and young females into the game, but to maintain that and to retain and to work out the environments that they need and are looking for.
Yep.
but to also offer the right environments for them to progress. And maybe that's one of the challenges that we face because of Bass Strait, is that we are not connected to different regions that can produce or where we can play football with. So I think it's quite easy for example, capital people to maybe drive into Sydney, or the northern New South Wales people I know come down into Sydney to play. Where you're connected a little bit by road, it's a lot easier.
It's easy,
You have to jump on a plane and fly across, or get on a boat and spend overnight. It's quite difficult.
Yep.
So we've got to look at ways of improving that pathway for our females. We've been quite successful at it. We've had a number of girls move on to youth national teams or even senior national teams previously. But we've got to find ways to make that happen more regularly. We used to have, as we said, the Institute of Sport and the full-time NTC programs. That was up to around 2015. And then as a part of a restructure, we went to part-time programs and our talent support programs. So to bring those identified players through at 14, 15, 16, through to NTC age group at 17, 18. And beyond that, we've really got our challenge is to have a strong and vibrant senior women's competition. So at the moment, it's a statewide league that we call the Women's Super League, so the WSL. What we're trying to look at now, and we'll move to in 2021, a much more criteria-based league, so people will have to meet criteria, so that, you know, one of the great things that's happened, Ro, is that FIFA have announced the Women's World Cup in Australia in 2023. So by the time we get to 2023, our aim is to have that competition at a level that's recognised nationally as a part of an NPLW level of football. So the first thing is really to make sure that the clubs that come into a revamped WSL in 2021 really have a vision to make sure that their clubs and their females progress towards, you know, by 2023 making it NPL standards.
Yeah, and I can just imagine you guys really supporting those clubs and working with those.
So we've identified criteria. We need them to come on board, and with that, obviously, we've got to provide some, you know, some programs and some things to run with coach education.
Brilliant.
Supporting them with their local government is so important. So I think one of the things we'll need to do is help them with their governance and working with councils. The things that don't actually extend onto the football pitch, I think we have a role in elsewhere as well.
Exactly.
And they will come, and I know our board's very active and very keen to work on that. And they've been doing a lot of work on facilities here in the last year or so, and we've had some great news and some great grants from government to develop facilities for football, and in particular including, you know, specific change rooms and ready-made facilities for females. Our competition, as I said, we have the statewide a WSL at the top, and then regional championships underneath that. So we've got a 2.5 hour, 3.5 hour drive from the south to the north and the northwest. So the regions in the north and the northwest have their own competition, and there's a separate competition in the south that then extends right down into the youth space for girls. So there are a couple of levels of youth space for girls, and then below 13s, they play in school club-based competition, which is generally mixed. Although there are some opportunities for female-only football. Now, females here don't have to necessarily play in female-only football when they get to the youth age or senior age. If they actually have the ability and their clubs and their coaches can provide the support that they need in coaching and medical, then they can play in the youth leagues with the boys, and they can play in some of the senior 18s and some of the lower levels of the senior men's competition as well.
That's great.
Across the couple of years, we've had, you know, a number of girls that have done that, which is really, really good. And those are the girls that have been aspirational and wanted to press on. And they're well supported by their clubs. So
that's it.
It's been really good. You know, we've often considered whether we could actually form a state team that played in Victoria.
That's
that
interesting.
Would be a real bonus for us. You know, it's something that we keep thinking about, but again, that requires real planning.
It does.
You know, strong financial backing. And one of the things that we would want to investigate is how that would impact upon the Victorian clubs. And obviously at the moment, you know, we can't do anything in that regard because unfortunately you guys can't play over there.
No.
And we're conscious and thinking about the people in Victoria at the moment. So hopefully you're all right and looking after themselves. So
no, I really like that.
One of the other things. But with the Women's World Cup, I think that's really the thing that's going to push us forward in the next 3 years. A lot of planning to do. A lot of things that we can then inspire the young girls to think about really stepping up, to inspire their clubs to step up and support female football.
That's it.
You know.
And I think everything you just said, that's fantastic to hear in terms of federational support for local clubs and ambitions and where it wants to go.
Yeah.
So really watching that over the next couple months to years and just seeing how it's implemented, because I think if it's done well, even if there's a lot of lessons that other states can copy or even clubs themselves can take on.
Well, I think, and that's what we have to do too, is look to other regions of the country that have done really well. Exactly. Why does Victoria have a really strong, I think it is a really good structure for women there. New South Wales do capital football, have progressed. You know, there is a small region that has a W League squad.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't have, there's no male squad associated with that. They've done that and targeted directly at female football.
Yes.
I think that's something that we could do here. I mean, I know that everyone here would like to think A League and W League are possible. Even a national second tier would be great for our people and our clubs to think about moving into.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make that happen. We'd like to think that's going to happen. We're certainly working towards making that happen, but it's not just something that you click your fingers and it's there magically.
It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hard hours.
There is a lot of hard work, yeah. And even I think the next step, one of the steps might be then if there's a national women's or an NPLW national final series like there has been for the men.
Yes.
Is we want to progress our clubs to be ready to go into that. So
fantastic.
That's something we're working with.
And just look at the last two parts. I want to look at community and elite football, and then we'll wrap up with men's and boys.
Sure. Obviously, community football, social football is, you know, with the numbers that are playing, is still quite strong. So across the state, in men's community, I think there are 6 divisions of football. There are some specifically, well, there have been for the over 35s, for us, the old fellas. Still have a run around and a kick in that. But across the state, football is really enjoyed by a wide range of people. You know, there, as I said, the futsal program is a really, really popular program, and I would count that as being, you know, in that community level.
Yes.
We do also work with the community in a couple of the disabled areas. So we work with the migrants, I think, as I said, mums in football, walking football. So the old or the elderly age people can involve in themselves in football at a community level. And I think one of the things that has really started to become apparent for government is the reach of football within the community and how many people actually play the game or are involved in it or support the game. And that's been really good that government's starting to see that and support us as well. The other question was around
elite level, so the NPL.
Elite level, so the other end of it. Okay.
The other end of the state.
NPL. So our NPL here is one level only. So I know in other states there would be a stream all the way down from seniors to reserves, whether that's a 20s or a 23s, 18s, 16s, 14s. At the moment, ours is only one senior competition.
Okay.
We're working potentially towards the 2022 season to expand that. It might take a bit longer. We would want, as the governing body, as the company is looking to try to instigate that, but we've got to work with the clubs, and the clubs have to be comfortable with that, and they have to meet the criteria. Again, there are costs involved in that. Once you go beyond one team, and as I said, you have to travel in most places around here, and as I say, it could be 3 hours, 3.5 hours travel to get to games. But I know there are places interstate where that's a lot further and it could be a lot longer.
Yeah.
But it's a change of mindset, and you've got to work with that as well.
Exactly.
But our aim is to progress our NPL on the male side to be a whole stream all the way down. There might be some variations. It may not be the straight roster home and away format. We've got to look at that. You've got to come up with solutions to make everything work.
That's it.
And at the same time, you've got to make clubs sustainable.
That's the big one.
There's no point running a competition that then breaks clubs.
Exactly. No.
So there's a lot of modelling to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in the next 12 months to try and get that to happen.
Interesting.
And then the question then becomes what's on top of that for our senior men. Obviously, there's an NPL final series once that comes back into being again. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped that. But men's state teams, we've got to look at what we can do for our men's select senior teams. We're looking at, again, A-League is always on the table. We're always pushing with the expansion that FFA had promised.
Yes.
We would want to be considered again. I think that's
sure.
really important.
Yes.
A national second tier is always a thing that you keep discussing. I think club football has got to be challenged, not just to be thinking we can be the best here. It's like, how can we then expand and be better elsewhere?
Exactly.
That you expand a whole range of thinking and keeping an open mind about the game. And as I said, then on the high performance side of women's football is where do we go with, our high performance females? We would like to get our senior women's state team to be able to go into state and play, or have interstate comes here and teams come here. We're working towards that. Again, options for competitions are important. Final series for National Premier League, once we reach that standard, would be good. We want to be a part of that. There's a lot that can be done. But again, there's a lot of things that need to be considered to make it sustainable and viable. So
fantastic. Thank you for that. And just wrapping up, just kind of some of the highlights or some of the things that you've noticed in your time being involved in Football Tasmania that you're really proud of, or things that have achieved within the game.
The game here, I think, has grown obviously in numbers. It is really, really popular. I think our community officers do a great job with their work with sporting schools. And if you like, one of the things that they've done is to football rise schools.
Yes.
In other words, 10 years ago in Tasmania, if you'd gone around AFL goalposts, so Australian rules football goalposts would have been up on most school grounds. Whilst they still exist in a number of schools, you're now seeing football goals there on the football grounds, and grounds are marked out, and there are round balls out there far more often. Look, whilst we've got children out there playing and being active and whatever it is, I'm happy about.
Exactly.
I'm happier that they're kicking a round ball. And everyone can join in that. So that's been one of the really, really good things I think that we've been able to push here. I think the progression of some of our aspirational players who have come up and then moved into state or have looked for US college scholarships, the way that they've tried to expand their horizons has been really good. I think the Institute program and then the NTC program was a really, really good thing for the development of the game here.
Yes.
But one of the key things has been now this shift to part-time programs and players more in their football clubs.
Okay.
So I think we ask that they come to us, the identified players, once a week, but they spend the rest of the week in their club environment. So what's that started to do, and one of the things that we as a federation need to do and be better at is supporting those club environments. Whilst we have a responsibility to do some of the player development, it's a shared responsibility.
I totally agree there.
So we have to make sure that the clubs are better resourced. Again, resources are limited, small number of coaches. we've got to find ways to make that better. Again, there are cost implications if you're going to do coaching courses. One of the things that we've tried to do is really reduce the cost of the advanced courses.
Yeah.
But I think the advanced courses are really good. You know, the national curriculum's probably copped a lot of criticism lately. There might be groups that really don't understand what it's there for and how it's run. I actually think it's a really good tool. I think coaches should look at it and use it. Think carefully about it. It's not black and white. You've got to work with it to adapt it to what you want. But that process that football undertook 10 years ago to start with that national curriculum is going to take some time to get through. I think we're now starting to see, we saw initially the introduction of the skill acquisition programs. And I think in Tasmania, certainly some of our best players are now out of that 9, 10, 11, 12 age group. They're now 14, 15, 16. You know, so we're going to see even better players in the next 5 years in our leagues here. But it takes time.
It does.
And that's because it took time to get the coach education up into that.
Yeah.
So that took the first 3 or 4 years. And then you start with your 9 years. And they take 3 years or 4 years. So that's now 7 years.
Yes.
They're now 13, 14, 15. So that's another 3 years. That's 10 years on.
Yeah.
They're now 17, 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And we've got some very, very good 17, 18-year-olds coming through.
That's good.
Now, to get them in, they're not quite ready for senior football yet.
Yeah.
Some of them are breaking in, and clubs are working with them really well. So in the next 5 years, I think across the board, particularly male players, we're going to see a raising in the standards. Unfortunately, the females have been a little bit behind that because they weren't involved in that initial 3 to 5 year program with the juniors. Yeah. They were maybe 5 years late. So now we're seeing some really talented 12, 13, 14-year-old girls coming in because they are now starting to be involved in the skill acquisition programs. Our skill acquisition is quite different, I think, from some of the other states where they've had you join up to a skill and skill acquisition you pay for and you're a part of. We've actually said skill acquisition is something everyone has to go through. So even if you're a school club, if you're 9 to 12 and you've got a football program running, it's a skill acquisition program. Yeah. So here are the tools to run it with. And, you know, providing grassroots courses or the schools training certificates is really important to us. Yeah. You know, and trying to get them to understand that you don't actually, and clubs to understand, you don't actually have to make people pay for that. No. That's something they should be getting because they are in that acquisition age. Feed it to them, give it to them. Now, if there's additional to what they're paying as a part of their registration, if they want to come and do more, then that may be something. Yeah. But as a part of your normal registration, they're doing skill acquisition anyway. Yeah. You don't need to have separate leagues from our point of view to do that. They practice it, they work with it, they go to school and they kick around. That's it. It should be something they're doing naturally. Yeah. So that's why I think we've got a really good program at that bottom level. Our schools programs encourage those sorts of things. Yeah. And we're starting to see the benefit of it. So really positive about, you know, the next 5 to 10 years in terms of the young player development. But with that obviously comes, you've got to develop your clubs and your coaches and the administrators. I think we're going to see some more full-time administrators in clubs as clubs grow. That's great. You have 2 or 3 full-time senior coaches. Okay. Yeah. You know, we're probably going to end up with more. We will need to see more female coaching. So we will be starting some initiatives to try and get some more females into coaching because they bring a certain aspect to the game, you know, a very important aspect to the game. So there's some of the things that we're going to be working on there. Fantastic and exciting 5 years ahead. At least, because you know we want to have as I said, the World Cup is going to really. We've got to have something leading into that, and then off the back of that, we've got to boom again. So we've got to. I completely agree. Got to have something. You know, I just have it come and go. We've been fortunate with Female Football Week. You know, we've had Michelle Heyman. You know, has been prepared to come down. Yep. The young Matildas coach Leah Blaney was prepared to come down. She's spoken over Zoom during the COVID period to a number of our aspirational players. So they're really keen, the players here, to press on and move forward. So looking forward to it, mate. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. Thank
That's
you
all
for
right, man.
joining me. And
All good. We just wish for many, many more trophies for the red side of North London. Just remind all my Spurs supporters, Spurs friends out there that, yeah, the Gunners rule North London. North London is red.
another 12 months. We'll see what happens. Enjoy for 12 months. Look,
Thanks, mate.
but yeah, once again, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And I think it was fantastic to have a look at what's happening outside of Victoria and Tasmania. Brilliant.
Well, we are close to you guys, so I'm more than happy to get involved with anything that's happening there and have some good relationships. I think we need that. And
Exactly.
I think, as I said, Boris and I did a course, and Boris has always been very, very open to having people from Tassie come in and work there, and
Yep.
some of our players come into there.
Because at the end of the day, it is one big football community. It's not, doesn't matter where you
Correct.
are in the world. We're all in the same boat.
Unfortunately, it's just distances in Australia that keep us apart. Otherwise, we'd be all being there together.
Exactly. All right, that's it. Thank you, Michael. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, bud. Thanks, mate.